I want to go, if I can, back a little bit from where we broke up yesterday, back to the Mitty Foundation issue and your involvement in that. After the intervention that you've testified about on June the 2nd of 2020, did the Attorney General contact you personally about that issue again?
We did have conversations subsequent to the intervention, yes.
Right. And what was the occasion? Did you attend any meeting with the Attorney General about it?
I did attend a meeting with him. We were having a senior staff meeting. We had a weekly meeting every week where all of the deputies would gather in the main conference room, and he did request my presence at a off-site meeting to discuss the Mitty Foundation.
Can you give us a time?
The meetings happened in the morning, roughly mid-morning. It was, I believe, after the intervention, but it was prior to my being removed from the case by First Assistant Mateer.
All right. So what did he say? Just if you could repeat what he said to you and asked for.
He came to me in the meeting. The meeting had already started. He approached me and said, "I need you to come with me to lunch."
And did he say any further? Who was the lunch going to be with?
Nate Paul.
What did he say to you as to why he wanted you to go to lunch with Nate Paul?
He didn't say specifically at that time. He just said we needed to go and have lunch with Nate Paul.
Did he indicate why he wanted you to go to lunch with Nate Paul?
It became clear subsequent to that what the meeting was about, yes.
What was your position at that time that you had stated to him before the intervention and even at the time of the intervention as to whether you were opposed or unopposed to it?
I was very uncomfortable with the intervention. We had discussed it. There were ongoing conversations after the intervention that made me even more uncomfortable with our position in that case. And I had communicated to him what I believe were the pros and cons, and we were very heavy on the con side.
So where did you go to lunch?
I believe it was Polvo's. It was a Mexican restaurant downtown.
And who went to the lunch with you?
Well, it was, we had to go through some gymnastics to even make the lunch happen. It was with the Attorney General and Drew Wicker from the Attorney General's office, and Nate Paul, of course.
How many weeks after the intervention and after you had expressed your opposition to it, how many weeks after that would this luncheon have been?
It would have been 1 to 2 weeks after is my best guess. I can't tell you precisely, but it was sometime in mid-June. It was very warm.
Did he ever ask you to go to lunch with anybody that represented the Mitty Foundation?
No.
Did he ever ask you to go to lunch with the lawyers representing the Mitty Foundation?
No.
In the entire litigation that had been going on for several years, did he ever ask you to meet with anybody other than Nate Paul, one of the parties to the litigation?
In connection with that case, no.
All right. Now, when you arrived at lunch, can you describe the lunch for us, please?
The Attorney General drove us over to Nate Paul's office, which is not far from our office, and left his car there. And as I recall, we piled into Nate Paul's car, and then he drove to Polvo's.
As a lawyer, what was your reaction to being asked? Did you consider it an ask or a directive? Let me ask you that first.
Objection, relevance.
I've simply asked you. I've given him a choice. I'm not telling which is
overruled. You can ask the question.
Thank you.
It was not a request to which I could say no for reasons that I can explain.
Please.
The reasons why were Jeff Mateer and I discussed briefly the request that I go to lunch with Nate Paul. And we very quickly determined that it would be inappropriate.
Objection to hearsay. He's talking about a conversation with Jeff Mateer.
Let me re-ask it a certain way if I can. Thank you, Your Honor.
Please sustain that and re-ask.
Thank you very much. All right. Let's go back now to apparently more happened on their initial request. Let's go back to when, at the meeting, he wanted you to go to lunch with Nate Paul. What was your initial reaction when he asked you that?
I was concerned that I was being asked to meet with the principal of a party in a lawsuit to which we had intervened.
And so without going into what Mr. Mateer and you said, who did you go to talk to?
I visited with the Attorney General, and I explained to him that there were ethical concerns because as counsel for the state of Texas, I would be meeting with a represented party in a lawsuit to which the state of Texas had intervened.
So what did you ask to him if you could do, and what did you do?
I explained to him
Objection to
that...
hearsay.
What? It's not. It's a conversation with the Attorney General.
It's this
Overruled.
I explained to the Attorney General that the only way that we could properly make this work under the rules of ethics is if there was a waiver from Nate Paul's counsel allowing me to speak directly with a represented party. My assumption was that that would terminate the request and we could go back to the meeting.